Why is it you turn down the radio whenever you're looking for parking? Before we get to that, you cannot get anyone's attention without triggering one of their senses. Here are 3 strange truths about attention. At any given moment, a person's attention is in one of 3 places. The first is physical. Where are they situated physically in the world? Next is focal. This is how we direct or aim our attention. It's what you do when you're trying to focus your sensory power. And finally, virtual, the inner monologue, the discussions you have with yourself, the voice chattering, bouncing around inside your skull. When you have this real bad, folks call it ADHD. That stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. People with this have a really hard time focusing. While this might be a real thing for some, others tend to use it as an excuse. A funny joke starts. In the middle of him enjoying his Monday Night Football, a husband is suddenly verbally attacked. He looks up and he sees his wife yelling at him with a deranged look in her eyes. "You never listen to anything I say!" His first thought is, so strange. Why does she always start conversations with me this way? Now, obs, if you want to get someone's attention, you've got to first make them aware. That means literally triggering one of their senses. They might feel a tap on the shoulder, hear a knock at the door, smell something cooking. The biggie with online anything is visual. They usually see something, a notification, a video, captions. You're reading these, aren't you? That's all sensory, but taking into account where they are physically situated is a biggie because that's context. Where are they? At work? At home? School? Starbucks? From their physical situation, they're also experiencing context switching, attentional focus switching. By the way, this is why you turn down the car radio when you're trying to see if you're in the right place, because you're trying to minimize sensory input distraction. But this attention focus switching really happens everywhere. Let's say you're physically in a meeting at work. Don't you hate those? The boss, aka the head jerk in charge, is the only one standing, droning on about whatever. And right next to you, you notice Fred. He's not paying attention to anything the boss is yammering about. His head and eyes are downward towards his crotch. Is he sleeping? Is he praying? No, Fred's on his phone. He's physically in the same room as you and your boring boss, but his attentional focus is on his phone. By the way, here's a cool public barrier trick. If you want to put an invisible barrier between you and others in public, put headphones on. Now, some people might breach this invisible barrier, maybe to ask you for something, the time, or I don't know, spare change? Sorry, those people are assholes. Anyways, back to Fred. Not too long after you notice Fred looking at his crotch phone, all of a sudden the boss goes, "Fred, what do you think of what I just said?" At that moment, Fred, who's been focusing all his virtual attention on his phone, suddenly he's startled back to his physical situation. By the way, people are pre-programmed to prioritize and be triggered by things they care most about, like their names. It's called a reticular activation system, or RAS for short. It's the reason why if someone shouts your name, even in a loud, noisy, or crowded area, it's likely you'll hear that. You're pre-programmed to. When moms yells your name out the window to get your butt back in the house, yeah, you heard her. Your saved booty can thank your RAS for that. Anyways, Fred, who's been called out and put on the spot, looks at the boss and all he can think to himself is, huh? The boss, who might not be the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree, is still smart enough to know that Fred was not paying attention. That's why he calls on him. The boss is always trying to catch Fred doing wrong, and anyone else for that matter. In fact, it's the only thing jerk boss is really good at. Never praises, always blames. For Fred though, it's even worse. See this boss? He hates Fred. He has a thing for him. Why? Because Fred never listens to the boss. Yet Fred, he's always the top performing salesman year in and year out. The boss is threatened by Fred, and Fred never respects his authority. So any chances he gets to pull rank on Fred and make Fred look small, he takes it. Fred, who also doesn't like the boss and thinks these meetings are a big fat waste of time, he's not conforming. Fred's got his own ego issues, but so what? We all do. The boss says, "Fred, you're not paying attention. What's so important that you can't stay focused with us here in this meeting?" Without skipping a beat, Fred says, "Well, I'm actually chatting with a client threatening to give us money right now. It could be a huge deal. What's more important, boss? This meeting or closing this potential huge win deal for the company?" The boss doesn't respond. He just stares at Fred, deadpan, blinks, goes back to adjusting everyone else in the room, and with that closes. "Okay, everyone, let's get out there and do this. That's the end of the meeting. Good talk. Thank you all." So from an attention standpoint, what just happened? Let's break it down. Again, Fred was physically in the meeting, but he was doing a lot of attention switching. He was texting on his phone with a client, or so he says, but he was also having a dialogue with the boss, and also himself. What can I say to this jerk that'll get him off my back and shut him up? See? 3 places all at once. When it comes to attention, you have accidental and intentional. On the internet, accidental attention is doom scrolling on Facebook, sorting through pictures on Instagram, and watching endless 15-second vids on stories, shorts, and TikTok. It's short little dopamine bites you consume as you discover them randomly. The only intention is to not be bored. The other type is intentional attention. That's curiosity and searching for stuff. That's a Google or YouTube keyword search. That's punching in an end destination on your Waze or GPS app. The person is purposefully seeking. If you want to be an attention master, it's probably not a bad idea to understand this stuff and how to harness it. What do you feel? Was this useful? Leave a message in the comments with any feedback or questions you might have. Thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate you. Questions? Drop them for me below. Remember, haters are always going to hate, but you don't have to dim your shine to light someone else's candle. The darkness is defeated in our collective light. Check out the description box for more useful stuff. If you want to get in touch with me, ways to do that are there too. Did you find this video useful? If so, please give it a thumbs up. It's a small act from you, but means the world to me. If you don't want to miss future content like this, hit subscribe and set your notifications. For even more exclusive content, be sure and join the newsletter. Link is in the description. And now, check out one of these other useful videos.